Quick disclosure before we start. AI-assisted tools were used in parts of the research and production workflow. Final editorial judgment, risk posture, and release approval stayed human-led. This is operational guidance, not legal advice. These are my opinions and are not representative of any organization. Imagine the agent finally does what everyone wanted. It reads the context. It checks the file. It calls the tool. It drafts the follow-up. It keeps going while everyone else is in a meeting pretending the meeting is the work. And then, at the end, someone asks a very normal question. How much did that cost? And the room does that thing rooms do when nobody wants to become the owner of the answer. Because the answer is not just money. It is, what context did the agent retrieve? Which tools did it call? How long did it run? What model did it use? What evidence did it leave? And who had the authority to stop it before it became expensive confidence with a calendar invite? That is the shift this week. Agent work is not just an access problem anymore. It is a runtime budget problem. This is AI Change Desk. Thank you for choosing to tune in. Welcome back to AI Change Desk. I am Michael. Today is the Wednesday brief for June 17th, 2026, and this one is the Agent Runtime Budget Check. Two signals are worth pairing. First, Microsoft says Copilot Cowork is now generally available, with WorkIQ sitting underneath the context and tool layer. Second, Anthropic says it is complying with a United States government legal directive and removing access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5. Those are not the same story. One is about expanding agent work, one is about access getting cut off. But for operators, they point to the same control question. Before an agent becomes normal work, who owns the meter, the map, and the stop switch? Microsoft's Cowork signal matters because it makes the agent budget surface harder to ignore. Not the budget in the abstract, not the annual software line item that somehow becomes real only after procurement has already been emotionally defeated. The actual runtime budget. Microsoft describes Cowork work as usage-based, denominated in Copilot credits. The task cost depends on model use, context retrieval, tool calls, and runtime. That list is the episode. Model use, context retrieval, tool calls, runtime. Those are not only billing dimensions, they are governance dimensions. If the agent retrieves more context, risk changes. If it calls more tools, blast radius changes. If it runs longer, drift changes. If it uses a more capable model, cost and review expectations change. So the operator question is not, can people use the agent? That question is too small now. The better question is, can this agent keep running under these rules? With this context, these tools, this budget, this evidence log, and this fallback. That is a different approval conversation. It is also a healthier one, because a lot of AI governance still treats agent use like someone asking permission to enter a room. But the room now has tools in it. The tools have access. The access has cost. The cost has owners. And the agent is wandering around with a badge that says, helpful. Helpful is not a control. Helpful is how the raccoon got into the office in episode 24. The WorkIQ layer makes the context side more concrete. Microsoft is not just saying agents can be smarter, it is saying agents can be grounded in organizational context, tools, and workspaces. That sounds useful, because it is useful. It also means the access review has to move closer to the actual workflow. What context can the agent retrieve? Is it reading documents, meetings, people, tasks, emails, or all of the above? Where does intermediate work live? Which tools are agent optimized? Which tools are blocked? Who sees the log? Who sees the credit usage? And what happens when the agent starts doing exactly what you asked for, just more times than you expected? That last part matters. A bad agent fails loudly. A useful agent can fail quietly by becoming routine before the controls catch up. It is the difference between a broken vending machine and a vending machine that keeps accepting corporate cards. One gets fixed, the other gets normalized. The second signal is Anthropic's June 12th statement. Anthropic says the United States government issued a legal directive, and that Anthropic is removing access to Fable 5 and Mythos 5 for all users. That is the sentence to keep narrow. No extra drama, no speculation, no pretending the podcast is now a sanctioned seminar with a theme song. But operationally, the lesson is very real. Access can close. A model that is available today may not be available tomorrow for a reason that has nothing to do with your roadmap, your sprint plan, your budget spreadsheet, or the confident little slide that says future-proof architecture. That phrase should always make a room nervous. Future-proof architecture is usually architecture that has not met the future yet. The practical question is simple. If this model goes away, what pauses? What continues? What fallback is approved? What quality threshold must the fallback meet? What user message goes out if output slows down? And who makes the call before teams start improvising in production? This is where episode 22 comes back. Access has a life cycle. Approved, pilot, sunset, blocked, emergency fallback. If your access map does not include fallback, it is not an access map. It is a vibes-based seating chart. This connects cleanly to the last few episodes. Episode 26 asked, who owns the agent toolchain? Episode 29 asked, what evidence proves agent reliability? Episode 30 asked, who owns standing permission when AI keeps acting in the background? Episode 32 asked, what proves memory-backed context actually exited the workflow? Today adds the meter. The agent can be approved, reliable, permissioned, and memory clean, and still need a runtime budget gate. Because once work is metered by model use, context retrieval, tool calls, and runtime, governance has to know more than whether the tool is allowed. It has to know how the work is bounded while it is happening. Here is the Wednesday action. By next Wednesday, June 24th, run one agent runtime budget gate. Pick one workflow, not the whole company, not the entire AI strategy. One workflow where an agent can retrieve business context, call tools, run for more than one step, or consume metered credits. Then answer 10 questions. First, who is the business owner? Second, who is the admin owner? Third, what context can the agent retrieve? Fourth, which tools can it call? Fifth, what is the expected runtime? Sixth, what is the credit or cost cap? Seventh, what is the stop trigger? Eighth, what evidence log proves what happened? Ninth, what fallback model or provider is approved? And 10th, what message goes to users if the workflow slows, changes, or pauses? That is the gate, not a 20-page policy, not a heroic spreadsheet with conditional formatting and emotional problems. A gate. Context, tools, runtime, credits, evidence, fallback, owner, stop switch. If those exist, the agent can be managed. If they do not, you do not have an agent operating model. You have a metered intern with root access and no lunch break. The useful thing about this week is that it turns a vague concern into a checklist. Agent work now needs a runtime budget. Not because cost is the only risk, because cost is one of the few signals that forces people to admit the work is real. If an agent retrieves context, calls tools, runs longer tasks, and consumes credits, then it needs the same boring adult supervision as any other operational workflow. A meter, a map, a fallback, and a stop switch. Fix that before the agent becomes normal. That is the Wednesday brief. I am Michael. This is AI Change Desk. This is AI Change Desk. See you next time.